Greenbush Public Library, and we are back again today for more crafting around the house. We are going to be making unicorn marionettes using toilet paper rolls. You'll just need 2 toilet paper rolls, a couple of popsicle sticks, or if you don't have popsicle sticks, you can use old pencils, will work just as well. A little bit of aluminum foil. You will need some yarn or twine to make the strings for your marionette. I'm going to use colored yarn for my unicorn tail, but if you don't have yarn, you can use colored construction paper cut into strips. You'll also need some paint, your scissors, a black marker, and I'm using beads for my unicorn's feet, but if you don't have beads, you can just use some cardboard that you cut out into hoofs. So for our first step, I have my newspaper laid out so I'm not going to make a mess. We're going to use 1 whole roll for our unicorn body. To make our unicorn's head, we're going to cut off about 1/3 of this second tube. So we're just going to take our scissors, cut down side, and then we're just going to cut around. This part you'll want to set aside, and this piece will become our unicorn's head. Now, I'm making my unicorn white, so I am just going to paint both tubes completely white, and then we will let them dry before we move on to our next step. So now that our paint is dry, we are going to attach our marionette's legs. For this step, you're going to take your longer toilet paper roll. I'm going to draw where I want my legs to go. It's just 4 simple holes that you're going to end up putting in. So 1 here, and 1 across from it, and then on the other end, and 1 across from it. So you're going to, all right, where I've made my dots for my legs, I'm going to take a needle and just punch a hole through on each of those spots. All right, so for my unicorn's legs, I'm using white yarn, but you can use twine if you have it, gardening twine or string. We're going to cut 2 pieces of yarn, equal lengths, and however long you want to make them is completely up to you. It just depends on how long you want your unicorn's legs to be. I'm going to go about 1 foot long on each of my pieces of yarn. So you're just going to take your yarn and thread it through 1 hole and then go back out the one right next to it. I'm using a needle to make it easier, but if you have littler fingers, you might just be able to pull the thread through on your own. So you'll see like this. I'm going to pull them to make them even, and that will be our front legs or our back legs. So go ahead and run your other piece of thread through your other 2 holes so your unicorn has both front and back leg. Now for my unicorn's feet, I am using silver beads. Like I said earlier, if you don't have beads around your house, you can just take a piece of cardboard and cut it out into whatever foot shape you would like, and then just run your thread through it to make your foot attach. I have a needle that I have put my yarn through, and I'm just going to thread my bead onto the bottom of my yarn. And then I'm just going to tie a knot so that my bead can't fall off. Okay, so we've got all of our legs connected to our unicorn. The next step is going to be to punch holes on the top of our unicorn's bodies, where we're going to run the yarn that will connect his head and also the controller. So you'll want to put a hole on the top to connect his head, and then across from that, a hole where the thread is going to come up to connect to his controller arm so his back end isn't hanging. So I've got the holes punched in the top of my unicorn, and I have cut a piece of yarn about 3 feet long. I think it's better to go longer than shorter because we can always trim off the extra. And what we're going to do, take our yarn, we're going to thread it through the top of our unicorn, bring it through, and then again, you're going to come right up and out the other side. So we'll end up like this. Our next step is to decide how much room we want between our unicorn's body and its unicorn's head, or how long is his neck going to be. Once you decide how long you want your unicorn's neck to be, tie a knot in your yarn. You can see I've got my knot for my unicorn neck. I'm going to set his body and neck aside. And take our unicorn head, and we're just going to again put 2 holes right through the top and bottom so that we can connect him to his body. To connect our head, we're just going to take our yarn and thread it through the holes that we just poked on our head. And then we're going to slide it all the way down, and our knot will stop it from going further. All right, so we've got our unicorn head, his body and legs. Our next step is going to be to attach our little controller arms. I'm using popsicles. If you don't have popsicle sticks, you can use pencils or sticks from outside would be fine. I'm going to lay mine flat so I can tell that their yarns are even. Then you're just going to tie a knot to connect your marionette on both ends, top and bottom. All right, so I have snipped off the extra yarn from my first popsicle stick. To make your marionette easier to hold, we're going to use a second popsicle stick. I'm just going to tie mine together. If you have glue, you can just dab a glue on there and connect them to is fine. I'm just going to tie them. Okay, so our marionette is basically done. Right now, all we need to do is turn him into a unicorn. So we'll need to give him his ears, eyes, his horn, and his tail. For now, we're going to set him aside. With our extra piece of toilet paper roll, we're just going to cut out his ears. And then we're going to paint them white. So I'm just taking and cutting out a couple of little unicorn ears, kind of like a raindrop shape. Now we're going to paint these white, and while they're drying, we'll add on his tail, his eye, and his horn. Now to make my unicorn's tail, I'm using a rainbow colored yarn, and I've cut each color of the rainbow about 8 inches long. If you don't have yarn, you can just use strips of colored construction paper that you glue onto his back end to make his tail. With my yarn, I'm going to take and put a hole right behind where his back hanger is, and then I'm just going to thread my yarn through and tie a knot. All right, so we have our unicorn almost done. His tail is connected. Next step, we're just going to draw on some eyes. I'm using a black Sharpie, but you can do your eyes however you choose to. I'm just going to make a little U and eyelashes. And then the same thing on the other side. to make our unicorn's horn, we're just going to take a small piece of aluminum foil and we're just going to wrap it corner to corner to make a pointy horn. All right, so once you have your unicorn's horn made, you're just going to take your scissors and cut a little slot on the top of his head where his horn is going to go. And then you're just going to feed your horn through your slot. So our unicorn is just about done. All we need to do is secure his ears onto his head. And then if you want, you can add a little extra dab of glue to the area around his horn and to any of your knots to help secure them. So to add our ears on, we're just going to take our ears, fold them over at the bottom, just add a dab of glue here. I don't have a regular squeeze glue, so I'm just using this giant one. Little glue on the bottom, and glue it right to your unicorn. And then the matching one on the other side, and we'll give it a little time to dry. Okay, so our marionette is all done. Now, if you love the idea of a marionette, but not so much the idea of a unicorn, you can decorate it in any color you'd like and with any type of extra accessories. You could turn it into a dog or a dragon or a cat, a zebra or an elephant, any kind of marionette you'd like. I can't wait to see your ideas. Make sure you share your finished puppets with us.